Do humans really have free will? Are we in control of our choices, or are our actions determined by factors beyond our control? This question has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and theologians for centuries. Today, we're diving deep into this timeless debate, exploring the ideas, rebuttals, and where the conversation stands today. Let's get into it. What is free will? Free will is the ability to make choices freely, without coercion or external compulsion. It's the idea that when you choose between, say, chocolate or vanilla ice cream, that choice genuinely reflects your preferences and is not predetermined by external forces. On the surface, it feels like we have free will. We deliberate, we choose, and we act. But is that choice truly free, or is it an illusion? Idea 1. Libertarian free will. Libertarian free will argues that humans have genuine freedom to make choices. We're not puppets on strings controlled by fate, genetics, or the laws of physics. Instead, we have agency and the capacity to act otherwise than we do. Example, imagine you're at a restaurant and you're choosing between pasta and pizza. Libertarians argue that your decision isn't dictated by external factors. It's a result of your own free deliberation. You could have genuinely chosen either option. Rebuttal. Critics say this doesn't account for the influence of biology and environment. What if your free choice for pizza was shaped by your genetic preference for carbs or by a memory of eating great pizza as a child? These factors might nudge you without you even realizing it. Idea 2. Determinism. Determinism challenges free will by suggesting that every action and decision is determined by prior causes. According to this view, everything from the movement of galaxies to your decision to hit snooze this morning is governed by cause and effect relationships. Analogy. Think of dominoes falling. Each domino topples the next, and once the first domino is pushed, the outcome is inevitable. Determinists argue that humans are like those dominoes. Our decisions are just the result of prior events, like genetics, upbringing, and environment. Rebuttal. If this is true, what about our sense of responsibility? If we're just dominoes falling in a predetermined way, how can anyone be held accountable for their actions? This leads us to the challenge of moral responsibility, which we'll touch on shortly. Idea 3. Compatibilism. Soft determinism. Compatibilists attempt to bridge the gap, arguing that free will and determinism can coexist. They say, free will doesn't mean you're completely unconstrained, but rather that you're free as long as you're acting according to your own desires and motivations, even if those desires are determined by prior causes. Example, think of a self-driving car. It's programmed to follow specific rules, but within those rules, it makes decisions about routes and speeds. Compatibilists argue humans are similar. We're shaped by prior causes, but as long as we're acting voluntarily, we have a kind of free will. Rebuttal. Critics argue that this definition waters down free will. If your choices are still ultimately determined by prior causes, can we really call them free? Or are we just redefining free will to make it fit within determinism? Idea 4. Illusion of free will. Some argue that free will is simply an illusion. Neuroscientists have found that decisions may be made in the brain before we're even consciously aware of them. Studies using brain scans show that the brain often decides milliseconds before we think we've made a choice. Example, imagine playing a game where you press a button whenever you feel like it. Brain scans reveal activity in decision-making areas before you consciously decide to press the button. This suggests that what we perceive as free will might just be the brain running its programs. Rebuttal. Critics of this view argue that just because the brain shows activity before conscious awareness doesn't mean free will is absent. Conscious deliberation might still shape those brain processes, making it a collaborative effort rather than a strict illusion. Philosophical challenges, responsibility, and morality. One of the biggest challenges in the free will debate is its connection to responsibility. If our choices are determined, or even just heavily influenced, how can we hold people accountable for their actions? Example, consider a criminal trial. If someone commits a crime, and we discover they were influenced by genetics, trauma, or brain chemistry, should they be punished? If their actions were predetermined, does it make sense to blame them? This has real-world implications for how we approach justice, rehabilitation, and societal norms. Modern perspectives, free will in a scientific world. In modern times, the debate has expanded into neuroscience, psychology, and physics. Neuroscience. As mentioned, studies suggest our brains might decide before we do. But other research indicates that conscious deliberation can still play a role in overriding impulses, suggesting a nuanced interplay between biology and choice. Quantum mechanics. Some physicists argue that at a subatomic level, the universe isn't fully deterministic. Quantum mechanics introduces randomness. Does this randomness create room for free will, or does it just replace determinism with chaos, leaving us no more in control? Psychology. Cognitive behavioral approaches suggest that while we might not have complete free will, we can reframe and recondition our thoughts and behaviors. This gives us some degree of agency, even within constraints. Where do we stand? So, do humans have free will? The answer depends on who you ask. Libertarians say yes, determinists say no, and compatibilists say kind of. Science adds complexity to the debate but hasn't settled it. What we can say is that free will, whether real or perceived, has a profound impact on how we live, how we treat others, and how we hold ourselves accountable. The question of free will isn't just academic. It's deeply personal. It touches on how we see ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we build our societies. Are we truly free, or are we just following a script we can't see? Ultimately, the answer may depend less on finding a definitive truth and more on how we choose to live with the uncertainty. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe in free will, or do you think it's an illusion? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more philosophical explorations. Thanks for watching.